Okay, we'll pick it up. Unfortunately, the recording had stopped for a couple of minutes there. We did attendance. This is the high-speed internet subcommittee meeting for October 3rd. And we had already covered attendance, and we started talking about grant funding around Mass Broadband Institute, the $147 million, and then another $30 million in infrastructure as proposed by the governor's office. So, and then we just went through public comments. There were none, and we'll pick up our agenda. Was there further discussion on grant funding at this time?
No, but I'll just pass that on to you.
Okay, great.
In case it's of interest to you.
Great, and I'll get this distributed out. I'm also asking the town IT guy to spin up. We have a little web page on the town website, so we'll have a little section where we can put documents like this for us that anybody, instead of emailing them around or printing them out and sending them to you, you'll be able to grab them right on the town webpage. So make it easier, because, and plus we have folks, that are remote. And so I'll email them after the meeting, but it'd be way better to have it during the meeting for them. And I had also passed out the municipal plan, municipal light plant checklist, and talked about it briefly, but that's also study material. So tonight we have, I believe we're going to have 2 sets of guests, if not 3. I know a couple people in the audience already. So, Brian, you want to come up and introduce yourself? And
you want us up there? You want to
do whatever you'd like, sir. This is a very casual meeting. Please come on up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll go with that. Did bring a couple of printed handouts I sent. The chairman or.
We're sitting down, Brian.
Yes. Yeah, you can. This is what we'll be talking about. I don't know if you can pull that up for the
I like that.
people at home. Better tech than I am, chairman.
That looks like.
So my name is Brian Sullivan. I'm the key account salesman at Westfield Gas and Electric with City Fiber. And
I'm Katrine Ferreter, the Director of Customer Service and Sales. I've been at Westfield Gas and Electric with City Fiber for 9 years, and my main role was a customer service rep when we implemented the pilot area in Westfield, as well as the liaison for all of our community partners.
so Katrine was there at the beginning of this, and I came in the middle as we were building out some of the hill towns, and we're continuously building out Westfield, as you discussed at your last meeting. But who is Whip City Fiber? Well, we're not just your neighbor. We're actually one of the largest companies doing fiber to the home today in this area, but we've also stretched out. We're talking to people at the Cape, and we're really looking to go up and down from coast to coast, as you can tell, in Massachusetts. So what we wanted to do, appreciate the opportunity to come meet with you. It's been a long process for all of you, I understand. We met probably 2 years ago after the second time you brought the committee together, and now we got new faces and everything else. So it's you, Southwick, have gone through the process just like every other town has done. You took your 2 votes. You passed a bond in regards to starting your process. And now you're at the point of pole applications and pole licensing. We Whip City Fiber have been assisting Southwick in regards to that with Eversource and Verizon, so that you can get permission to be on those poles and finish what you've started. So hopefully at the end of this, you're going to see what we've done in the area, what we hope to do with Southwick, and what we're continuing to do with ourselves as Westfield proper.
As part of that process, I noticed that all the poles on South Long Yard are being replaced. And they're taller than the existing poles. Is that because this is already something that's in motion?
My guess is that's probably a project that was in the works prior to this.
I'd like to take complete and total credit for that, but their general MO is they're putting in taller poles because they kind of know what's up, but that project was
Okay.
probably pending way ahead of that, or.
Yeah, you're going through the paperwork process right now with Verizon and Eversource to get in their queue. So, and it's called FIFO, first in, first out. And we've been wanting to get you guys in that hopper so that when you get to the point of selecting somebody to assist you, you'll be able to keep going with that. But I think that process is probably something that was on the books already. Who is Westfield Gas and Electric? We have right now over 18,500 electric customers, over 10,500 gas customers, but we now have over 16,000 Whip City Fiber customers. And that's Westfield and the Hill towns. And we're working right now with a couple neighboring towns of West Springfield and Hamden, who similarly went through the process that you guys are going through right now. The next page is those places that we are at. The purple are towns from Alford to Windsor, in this area that we've taken from poll applications to activations. And that's one thing we want to emphasize, and hopefully you'll understand that at the end of this, is we're a partner from the beginning right through to the end. And that starts with helping you get your poll licenses, but turns into all the other documentation and things that you have to have. And then poll make ready, in other words, getting the fiber on the poles, and then building out your network. And then it turns into activations, it turns into billing, it turns into customer service, turns into emergency response. We're all of that. And we would like to be the partner with you as we move forward with that.
Sorry, I just wanted to add, these community partners, we actually went through contract negotiations. So originally it was a la carte services. So many of these community partners, we do have 10-year executed agreements to be their internet service provider. So we did just go through that over the last year. And that's where we earned our trust, earned our reputability and all of that. So as Brian mentioned, we do have the community partners and they're willing to work or discuss any questions that you may have directly as well.
And one of the biggest reasons for getting that 10-year commitment out of the Hill towns with Whip City Fiber was so that we could grow internally. We've increased our personnel, we've increased our customer service representatives, our fleets of trucks and things like that. So we know what we have on the books as we move forward with what exists. So that was what drove that. And our general manager made that commitment to the Hill towns that if those agreements came through, we were going to bolster what we had to offer. And so it worked out. It's literally a partnership, and that's what we're looking for here too.
Yeah, so over the last, just to add to what Brian's saying, over the last year, we've increased 35 employees, and that's from 3 fiber technicians, in-home installers, to billing, to the IT tech support, to in-home or internal network support. So we have grown. Once we had those secured agreements with the 10-year agreements, we increased staff.
So the next page is a little snapshot of Southwick. And these are, let me emphasize, these are fairly well-educated estimates. Obviously, we haven't done the in the street engineering and things like that. So there's things we may find, but this is a overhead snapshot of Southwick as an MLP. 83 miles of overhead distribution, 16.5 miles of underground distribution, estimated pole count of use. And I know this was something that you were just going through talking to Eversource and Verizon, 2,600 poles that would need fiber on them throughout Southwick. There may be more poles than that, some that don't need to be in the distribution. And we, again, may find some others, but that's a pretty good estimated count. Physical dwelling units, which I know you talked about at your last meeting. It was one of those, it's a PDU. Everything in this, as this committee knows, is letters. So PDUs, 3,685 physical dwelling units for Southwick. Expected take rate, 60%. We've used everything from 50 to 60. It's something that we're hearing from the citizens of Westfield, Southwick, that call Westfield saying, we know you're right there. We know we're talking about it. When can I have it? And that's really good for Southwick, but we're already getting those calls. So 60% is something that we'd be shooting for. And you obviously on the financial side and the build out side would be looking for that too.
I don't know if you can speak to this or not, like specific to Westfield, but is that take rate similar to what you're seeing there? 'Cause one of our biggest concerns is being in a competitive area with,
Yep.
with Comcast being the major broadband provider.
Yeah, I would say we're about like the 56%, and the reason why is because we're now going through the multi-dwelling units, so basically the apartment complex, 42 Arnold Street, and then also 38 Thomas Street, Lansdowne. So now, previously, we were just trying to build all the fiber service areas, and now we're focusing on the multi-dwelling units, but they're in released areas as well as the commercial customers. We now are offering managed services, whether it's the Wi-Fi extenders, and as well as the UMA commercial, so a commercial phone, because a lot of mom and pop shops, they don't have a tech support team. So we are increasing, so we're at the 56%, but again, it's because of the multi-dwelling units. And we're finding if service is already available, if someone's moving in, they're gonna move forward with Whip City Fiber, but it is word of mouth. And then basically everyone's a walking billboard. So we just did a meeting in Hamden. They're like, my son has it. When are you coming? I just want to know how soon you're coming. So it is, when the residents sign up, they're reinvesting into their community. So we are at the 56% mark, but we are going back to those multi-dwelling units and commercial customers that we already have fiber passing.
Do you have any data on how many customers have both? That they remain a Comcast customer, maybe not for internet, but they remain a subscriber to Comcast for one service? or
That's a very good question. We don't have that, but we could send a survey. We are Hamden Village. I don't know if you're familiar with Hamden Village, but it's an over 55 neighborhood, if you will. So we are working through that. We went through the first phase, and there we have about a 60% take rate. And then we do an info session with the Westfield Tech Academy. And I know Westfield Tech Academy is actually already involved in Southwick. I know that they go to the Southwick Village, is that what it's called? Southwick Village. So I
I don't know
know
what it is today. It's changed. like three
it's
times in a
changed.
year.
So I know that they go there weekly
Yeah.
to help people with the iPads, to help people with streaming, all of that. But we could send out a survey. I just don't have that information, but it is gaining trust to convert over the residents, but everyone in this room would be walking billboard, basically.
I have a
Walking through
feeling
town.
that question was bigger just probably a year or so ago. But as people start using it and get comfortable with it, and streaming, which was taboo 5 years ago, is now second nature. And a lot of the Comcast people were staying because of the television, right? And people are getting more and more comfortable as they get used to using it, are cutting the cord. I'm guilty.
Yeah.
I did that myself.
And I mean, interrupt your president,
No,
but I
that's
think
fine.
also, just anecdotally, amongst the OTT providers, even Comcast is now an OTT provider.
That's right.
You can buy their service without coax, without cable, right? So that's just been a trend in the market. But I'm curious, I remember when you guys were first starting up and everyone was eagerly watching what was going on in Westfield, and the take rates were good. They were not that great. That's fantastic. And 56% in Westfield is incredible. But it just begs the question for me is how many people are still straddling the fence, if you will. They're doing the high speed and then they still have Comcast for some level of TV or what have you. Anyway.
But that's a great question, and we will take it back to survey, because I think there is people, they wanna still have the high-speed internet, but they still want the comfort of just going to their TV to talk into it, the on-demand and all of that. So it is a learning curve. So what we do is we set up marketing events. So like Hamden Village, we went out there and we did marketing. So now they have the service. What do they do with the service? So we go out there and then we do info sessions on a weekend, because it's all about convenience, or in the evening. And they're just pop in. So let's talk one-on-one on how you can cut the cord and all of that.
Awesome.
You have a
Sorry, I
question?
go on, I just ramble on.
Oh,
Cord cutter.
yeah, I'm in the same boat.
You're ready.
I'm a slinger. No, I'm already there.
Yeah.
I had enough.
So I mentioned already Eversource and Verizon obviously are your customers. Current relationship that Westfield Whip City Fiber has with the town already is two different projects. We have the dispatch at the police station running back to Westfield. And so we built that underground coming off the bike trail. And we also have a Muni network set up for you. That's, all your Muni buildings, except for the DPW, because we don't have service there yet. But we're gonna be able to cut that cord now that we're up and running. Again, that's out of the police station is the main location, but this building will be set up and everything else. So we're already here. We're already working with you, and looking towards the future. Your town-owned fiber network. So design and engineering, your plant miles, your potential dwellings, your service drops, your hut locations. I know you talked about that last week too, is where would you put your hut, your main hub for the whole network? Most towns up to date are putting it on city or town-owned property. Obviously it's cheaper if you own the land already. A few have them in buildings. We like the huts ourselves, but if it's something that makes sense to a town, to put it in an existing building, that's fine. You don't have to buy the hut, but, you need, control the temperature and access, and things like that built into it too, security wise. But those are options that are open and your decision to make, when you get there. Make ready pole apps. We've talked about those, the procurement, the construction and the materials. We will assist and help be a partner with all of that. Project management, internet, ISP, internet service provider, emergency response. And like we said, some of the towns that we're talking to now are wondering, well, if you're gonna do the emergency response, how are you gonna do it in our town? And like I said, we built up our fleet and our people to be able to do it. But we also, coming from being in the gas and electric industry, understand what to look for, weather conditions, things like that. We have people on call. We set up teams that are gonna dispatch. And we have subcontractors that work for us also. But we noticed this past winter that most of the emergencies that were happening with bad weather, we were able to handle with our own guys, with our own people. So it's something that we know is coming just because of the historical nature of what it is. And in Southwick's case, it's right up the street.
What's the average response time?
So it depends what it is and where it is, obviously, and I know that's an easy question to get through, but we know that if it's a pole down and the electricity's out and things like that, we know we're not gonna get to touch that pole until such time that electrical is back up and running. So we're down the food chain in regards to that. We'll probably dispatch somebody in the meantime to watch that progress. So as soon as it happens, we're there. The other thing is we don't like to jump too fast because sometimes a pole goes down, electricity might be out, but the fiber didn't go out. It's pretty resilient. And again, we're pretty good at monitoring from our NOC to be able to say, okay, yes, the pole's down, or yes, there was a bad accident, but fiber's still up and we didn't lose the hut and things like that. So it wasn't a cop out of what the dispatch, the time is with you guys right up the street. If it's something weather related and something in Southwick, we probably have it in Westfield too. So we're already on the street. So we'll be able to jump on that pretty quickly. I don't want to lock into a time for you, but it's you pretty quickly.
Yeah, we do have, to add what Brian's saying, we do have 10 fiber techs and they all have fleet vehicles, so they go home with that. And we do have an individual on call, so they rotate, so they're on call. We have a 24/7 dispatch. And then I know that we recently had the storm, so then we'll ramp up. Basically, if there's a forecast, and then knock on wood, fortunately, we haven't had too many situations, but I know the March 14th, everyone was out and they were waiting for the electricity, whether it's National Grid or Eversource, to respond. And then we were just getting positive testimonials saying, thank you for your quick response. Our fiber stayed on. If they have a UPS, an uninterrupted power supply, then it will still work. But we're your neighbors. And then we would welcome anyone to come to our location so we can give you a tour, so you can see the fleet, the tech support, the dispatch center.
And the last thing, just the reliability, resiliency, and redundancy. That's our way of saying, we understand that once you get this and you're using it, you're never going to want it to go down. So we build in those safety nets for different directions on how your fiber is going to get here, different paths. So if this path is down and that's where the car accident is, we can reroute and get you another route. And we've done that extremely successfully up in the hill towns because they don't have any other alternative. There is no incumbent company up there. They have Whip City Fiber and they need it for their internet. They need it for their phones. for everything else. So we built in, an awful lot of redundancy up there for them. The Make Ready Pole Administration, those numbers speak for themselves. I think you can see where Southwick would fit in with some of the towns that we're already managing and already have gone through. Over 34,000 poles, and then subtract out the, Hamden and West Springfield, which, we haven't physically built them all out yet, but they're in that graph to start. And we have project managers within the company too, and it's something that I don't think any other companies are using, but we have some historical gas and electric employees that have come back to work for us as project managers, and they are part of the Make Ready project. So when Eversource or Verizon's out doing their pole work or arguing that, yeah, you got to put in a new pole, or you have to do this, you have to do that, we actually have our project managers go out and fight that. So that, you know, we won a lot of and saved over $2 million for the partners. That was because we were proactive with Eversource, National Grid, and Verizon in regards to, they just aren't gonna put in poles on your dime when they should have placed that pole a long time ago, or moving, whatever, getting the official space on the pole. You know, maybe if you just move one thing, you got the space there and things like that. So we bring that to the table. Again, that's a partnership with Southwick to fight with you. That point, I'll turn it over to you.
I don't have a printer at home. Trying to be green. Thanks, Brian. So as Brian said, we're very passionate about what we do, and me personally, just from start to finish in Westfield with the pilot area. But ultimately, what we do with all the communities is we're the turnkey solution from start to finish. When it's design and engineering, which we do outsource through Precision Valley Communications. So they did do our entire builds in Westfield as well as our community partners, and we do have a good working relationship with them. But basically, then we would be your internet service provider. So we have a customer service team that's down at 100 Elm Street, as well as a billing department. And the model that we have is everything's paperless. So that stays on postage. Everything's electronic when we hook up the customer, and we do sales and marketing. I know we mentioned that we're in a competitive territory now. So we do have a marketing team that's staffed of 4 individuals. And then they do work hand in hand with the sales team as well as customer service and billing. But we do info sessions. How do you convert over a customer? It's by building trust and maintaining that relationship to answer the questions of what their fear is to convert over to another provider. And then we do the onboarding. So for fiber installers, we do outsource the fiber installers because we want to ramp up based on the need. So currently we have the individuals in-house that are doing the installs. And previously we've partnered with Certex. They do the in-home installations as well as Tri-Wire. And we go through a full onboarding process to make sure that they're providing ease when the customer doing the install is, as well as the billing. So we do the billing as well as terminations. So something to remember is when a subscriber pays, it's going into Southwick's bank account. So we don't touch those funds. We counterbill you the following month. So you have completely control over that. You know which residents are paying and all of that. And we do a full termination process. So if you want to charge $50 for a reconnect fee, that's entirely up to the town of Southwick, and you would get that money. But we do all of that process, the communications through email, the communications through texting, and it's a remote disconnect and reconnect. Because in any business, you know that you're going to have that collection. Some people, it's their bad habit. Some people really have a financial hardship, which actually we provide affordable connectivity plan. We go through that, which is $30 savings as well as Lifeline. So if someone qualifies for fuel assistance, food stamps, then they could save $30 and $9.25 for the Lifeline. Again, that's a service that we provide through our customer service department and marketing to assist. And then the emergency response that Brian talked about, I want to emphasize all our in-house technicians, so they become familiar with Southwick's Southwick streets and all of that. And then the 24/7 tech support. So we do have tech support on 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And we've noticed that we don't really have an uptick in calls. So anything after 8 p.m. we do outsource, because a lot of that's what's my Wi-Fi password? Can you help me troubleshoot the router? And then they do escalate it to us if there's any issues. So that is outsourced after 8 p.m. And then we are a network operator, so we assist the town of Southwick in managing all of the assets as well as in any construction or repair. So another service that we offer is the dig safe and engines. So if residents are calling in 811 because they're gonna dig for a septic system, and then the engines is the National Joint Utility Notification System. So when Eversource is upgrading their poles, as we were talking earlier, we would be notified, so then we can work with the town of Southwick to move their fiber. So we automatically get notified of that, data security, network monitoring, and then as Brian mentioned, the redundancy and reliability. Now that your network's up and running, you want to make sure that if there is an accident, it's self-healing, that another provider could be the backup. And network and customer reporting. You may have some people that are using a lot of bandwidth. We can provide that report that maybe they might be in the next tier because they're running data servers or whatever it may be, with Bitcoin. So go to the next slide. So basically what we do, WG&E with City Fiber, is we're partners with all these towns, and you own the assets and we advise you how to build your network start to finish. Like Brian said, we work with you on the hut location. Typically it's a community anchor institute, which is already like the town hall, the fire station. And we do work hand in hand previously, me personally, with MBI, Massachusetts Broadband Institute. I was the liaison with them. So we do have a good rapport with the state as well as federally. Tom Flaherty and I are on the BEAD equity. We're on a panel, so we're on a working group. So we do have a seat at the table, if you will, but we just want you to know that it's your network. So that's what that slide represents. And then just emphasizing on the importance of internet, how everything is the Internet of Things, whether it's your security system with the Ring alarm, whether it's your child working, doing schoolwork at home, telehealth. Really, the future is internet. I know trail cam, I want my trail cam attached to it to get notified. Everything is, you need that bandwidth for the internet. So that's what we want to represent. And then next up is your website. So Southwick would have their own website. So it would be up to the town of Southwick to decide on how much you want to charge for your subscriber. So currently we have towns charging $69.95, like Otis, because we were one of Otis partnered with us at the beginning. So they followed our model. And then $75 to the town of Alford, who does charge their subscribers $110. Also towns, if you want, you could add an activation fee to just say it's $99 for an activation fee. We have many towns doing that. And the benefit of that is you get that revenue coming in, just that install fee at the beginning. So we facilitate all that. Basically, it's whatever the town of Southwick wants to do. And also, I know Southwick, you have quite a few commercial customers. So you can decide the tiers based on, I'm just trying to think of an example of a commercial customer. I know you have, not the live, like depending on what their use is, we have one big one. So they might be paying $700 or they might want dark fiber a month. So you can have a different commercial tier based on the needs, but the mom and pop, probably not, but you could set that rate, but we would assist you with that. And then also, the next slide that we have is the marketing, whether it's a postcard, a direct mailer postcard, lawn signs, a banner on the transfer station, info sessions, whatever it is, we basically can do anything that you want. If you have an email address, we can send out emails, texting, but we work hand in hand. Brian would be your point of contact. What would work best for the town of Southwick to increase your revenue generating units, RGUs? And then next up, so the CRM, that's the customer relationship management system. Depending on how Southwick wants to deploy, you could do, I know we were talking about the underground areas, you could divide it up by campaign. So based on demand and construction costs, if one area is overhead and the demand is 20% or 30%, because the saying is, if you build it, they will come. Or if it's underground and 50%, basically we would calculate that in our CRM, customer relationship management. And you can nudge your neighbor, why haven't you signed up? We want service. You could be the champion of the neighborhood. So we assist you, and everyone in this room could have access. So read-only access, who's signing up, who's not, how many people are scheduled, how many people are activated, because they're your customers. And we found that we had a lot of questions, are you gonna use Comcast, what's currently there? It's a brand new build, so we just have as much info for the residents and the commercial customers. So we even have a mock-up version of a house to just show how fiber is gonna get brought into the house. So if it is underground, we facilitate that as well, calling in DigSafe. It is 3 appointments, but it is brand new service. We don't use anything from Comcast. I just know that that's a frequently asked question from residents, but I already have this here. Can you use that? And it would be Southlake's assets. Then the customer portal, we did find that it was advantageous. There are gonna be residents who don't feel comfortable with signing up for ePay, but we work hand in hand with them, the electronic payments. So that's a hurdle that we'll work through together because you save on postage. It's electronic, so the customer can log into their portal, they can see what their monthly bill is, they can sign up for auto pay. We do share that it will save the town money if they sign up for checking, because then you don't get hit with those credit card fees. So the customer service rep, that's part of their spiel. If you sign up for checking, the town will save money, it's your network. But we do go through all of that, and we do offer UMA residential. So if customers, they have their phone service, I still want my phone service. Good news is they can keep their phone service. So we do that start to finish, and we walk them through that process so they can port over their phone number.
I've been a 15-year customer with Tom.
Oh, so you love it. Look at that. Oh.
It works great.
It's worth it. And that was kind of one of the hurdles. How do we get someone a phone? Well, through UMA residential and UMA commercial.
Yeah, I got the little box right now.
Yeah, and it's always good to have that phone at home. And
Question on that?
yeah.
Do the subscribers pay UMA directly, or is it included in the Westfield gas and electric bill or Whip City fiber bill?
So we either or. So we can do it internally, we would install it. We're transparent where we tell the subscriber, if you want to pay UMA directly, we just wouldn't install it. And then we just charge the wholesale price, we just charge you what UMA charges us. But we would encourage people, because then they just pay the taxes and fees.
Gotcha.
But we get charged from UMA, but it's either or.
Yeah.
So at the marketing, if we were to have a marketing campaign, we would say you could choose Magic Jack, you could choose UMA. But we offer it too. Some people are like, I'll
Some
pay.
people don't want to install it themselves.
Yeah.
They'd rather have it be turnkey, right?
Exactly. And then international calling is covered. They do have to add a little bit extra, so we cover that. But it is very slick. And then if you do have a house in the Cape or you have a house in Florida, you can move that with you. You just have to update it. So 911, exactly.
But how does that work how does that work for the billing side of it? So like you mentioned to us that we're gonna set the rate for the internet stuff. And I'm assuming there's a set fee from Whip City Fiber, right? How does that work with like the UMA service as well?
So UMA charges us $12.95. We charge the town $12.95. We're not making any money on UMA. If you want to charge $19.95, if you want to charge $30, you could charge whatever you want. And then there's taxes and fees. So we would just set that up.
Is that like the premium UMA for?
Yeah.
Cause you can pay, it's only $4 a month if you just get UMA yourself.
Hmm.
Cause they charge you like a universal tax fee. And they don't charge you per month I'm not trying to talk you out of your service, it's just.
Oh.
It's.
We would prefer people to just go directly.
Yeah, it's a comfort level.
Yeah, like you get it at Costco, right? Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
I think I get it. From where I sit, I think it's one of those things where that might be the thing that keeps people from doing this because they already have their phone either
You can port your number over.
correct, but if you make it easier, it makes it all that much more likely for a customer to come over.
I agree.
Right, if you have to go to Costco and buy the UMA thing or online and do it and then go through it and port it and all that other. Yeah,
If you call it a bundle and say, hey, we'll take everything,
right,
service.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. I think that's
No, that's
the basis for, it. Sure.
Makes perfect sense to me.
Or you'll be going to every house. We'll facilitate.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's the convenience. If you call tech support, our internal folks will troubleshoot what's going on. Oh, it looks like you unplugged it, or your fax machine, the Tello, which is an extension to the fax machine. Let me go on site. Let me do a truck roll. The first time we'll go out there. So the first month, second month, you're gonna get the same questions, and after that, I don't wanna say it's set it and forget it, but typically it is.
With UMA, the answer is always unplug it and plug it back
Reboot,
in,
Yeah.
and then it works.
So that's your computer.
Yeah, but it is exactly. Anyway, sorry.
No, the questions are good. The other thing that we do also offer, not the streaming, but Plume, so Wi-Fi mesh systems through us, because again, people don't want to do the install. They don't want to call Plume for tech support. So we do that in-house. It's a free consultation. If they have a pool house or they have a garage that they like to hang out and repair cars or hang out with the boys. So you could do the Plume again through Whip City Fiber. And then you, as the town of Southwick, we charge X dollars. You could say, I want $5 per Plume, or I want $2, whatever you want. We go through an onboarding process. Tell us what your FAQs are on the website. Tell us what your rates are, and you set that. So we just want to, it's your network, and we just accommodate.
I just have one question. Earlier, you were talking about tiers. Like you guys, there's no data caps, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so what were you like implying? Like if someone's like a high user, you would try to like move them to like a business?
If you wanted to, if you see that they're eating up your bandwidth, you can see so-and-so on Main Street, they're using the most. They should really be at a business here, although they're a commercial or a residential customer, but that would be up to you, but there is no,
It's not you mandating it.
no.
No,
Okay, perfect. That's
We charge a wholesale rate, and then if you charge a commercial customer or a residential, that's on the town of Southwick.
okay.
That's your revenue coming in.
I understand.
So the convenient online billing, again, we do the terminations. And then the next, sorry,
That's all right.
the emergency response. So what we do is we basically have materials on hand for over 3 towns. So if there was some sort of drastic emergency, in-house, we do have materials on hand, and that even goes to your hut. So if you had to change something on your rack, your optical network, we do have materials on site. And we increase that once we get executed agreements with our partners. And we do have, which this is something we're proud of, I know, working, our new general manager, he is increasing staff, because then they know it's better to have internal staff than outsource. So we have increased staff drastically. So we do have the fiber techs, and then it is that 24/7 response time, and you would have an emergency point of contact. So we're aware of an outage. I know sometimes there's those car accidents. And so during an outage, our marketing team communicates to all the residents. So you get a text message. I know I live in Blandford, so I was one of the unserved communities last. I got my service last, so I've only had internet for 2 years. But I received a text message the other day saying, we're aware of an outage, we're working on it, because there was a car accident. And then the estimated restoration time is X. Your service should be all set. If you're having issues, please contact tech support and they'll assist you on rebooting your router. And we do that, working hand in hand with the community partners, and then following that, we'll counter bill the town the following month. So we just wanted to,
Do you have an outage map that you can provide, or is that a capability we can build in as we build this thing?
oh yeah, so, do you wanna,
no, go ahead.
oh, sorry.
We do in Westfield, right? We can see our outage maps,
For
with
electric,
no problem for electric. But I don't know if we have any existing right now in the fiber world.
so we just introduced the OMS outage management system for the electric, and that was just released over the last year. So using the same, it's data voice, using the same system will overlay the fiber. So then if there is fiber outages, you can have a map and you could see 1,000 customers out, 1,000 subscribers. So that is in the very near future, I would say 2024. I can confidently say it will definitely be before we hook up a customer in Southwick, if we were to partner. That is something in the near future for all of our community partners. As soon as 2024. We just wanted to test out the electric, then overlay the fiber.
You have internal resources for network equipment. Failures, anything like that, if something happens in the hut, any equipment there?
Yeah, so we have 24/7 monitoring, I know with Solar Winds. And then we do have John Leary, he's in charge of the IT department, and we do have, 3 new team members that their job is to manage the network.
Like if a card went bad or a PON port was bad.
Yep. It would be,
We try to keep inventory. We don't have one and one. We don't have one for every single town, but we have 3 of everything or whatever. So if something goes down, there's a good chance we already have it existing. And that's filling the warehouse is what that is. Yeah.
and there is that prediction, if this card is down, which are the customers? As well as if 2 calls are coming in,
Mhm.
okay, there's a bigger problem. We need to send someone on site, like Brian mentioned, to triage.
Mhm.
It's worth the truck roll to see what's going on. And then in summary, so we do want to share that we are celebrating our 125th anniversary next year. So we do currently have 125 employees full-time at Westfield Gas and Electric, Whip City Fiber. And many of us wear multiple hats, whether it's gas, electric, and fiber for billing, but we're all very dedicated and we are continuing to grow. Just over the last year, we have increased our employees to 35 new employees. Again, many of them on the fiber side. And we do have a strong record of delivering high quality broadband services to communities across the Western Mass. MBI, they wouldn't have allowed towns to work with us unless we were vetted out and we had the credibility. So me personally, I work with Bill Lennon, Department of Economic and Housing as the grant administrator to make sure that all the documentation. So if you do get that BEAD funding, if there is any funding, what's that documentation to make sure that you get reimbursed? So I know personally, I worked hand in hand with them and we're right next door. So Southwick, we are neighbors. I know many people from Southwick, we're always passing through Southwick. And then we're proud to say the Make Ready and Pull application, like Brian said, we saved the communities over $2 million by challenging those poles if they should have been already replaced and all of that. We have boots on the ground doing joint utility ride outs. And then we do have the resources are WG&E Whip City Fiber. So they're proud, they're representing us word of mouth, they're walking billboards. So that's something that we're very proud of. I know Brian and I being from Westfield, and then our emergency response time, truck rolls. I live in Blandford, I basically Otis, and I see Whip City Fiber all the time. I'm like, oh, what are they doing? What are they fixing? And then we just do start to finish. So you're only dealing with one vendor in-house, Brian, myself, Tom Flaherty, start to finish on the design and engineering, to activating the customers, to terminating the customers, to onboarding and marketing. So we appreciate you having us. That was a lot of information, but I'm very passionate about it. So any questions?
Okay, go ahead, you first,
I
sir.
was just gonna say, are subscribers able to have their own router?
Yes. Yep, we provide a router. That's the only thing that we own throughout this whole process. So we could troubleshoot, upgrade, but we do have many folks that's what their system's already set up.
Yeah.
There's no discount, but they can have their own router.
Okay, so they can just refuse
Yeah,
your router, but they have to provide their own, but they wouldn't be a savings.
yeah,
That's right. And the only thing, the other side of that is if they do have an issue, they're responsible from the inside of the house
Sure,
now as
yeah.
opposed to us. But it's their choice.
good question.
So when you guys do a service call, does that ultimately get charged back to the town, or is that part of like the service? I'm just curious with like what your.
No, that's a good question. So, that goes back to the town because it is, if it's like an emergency. So we had one situation where someone dug up the fiber because they were doing construction.
Okay.
We counter-billed the resident because they should have called in DigSafe. And then so the town has to pay, but we counter-bill the resident and it goes into the resident or your bank account.
Yep.
But in the instance, if the resident, we had Mouse Chew comes to mind because it was the same resident 3 times. Yeah, so their mouse.
That guy's just living wrong, right?
Yeah, we're judgment free, but
Real dumb mouse.
yeah, there was no complimentary exterminator with that, but then so you're not involved, so you don't,
Yeah.
we just say, oh, well, that's actually a fee to you. So we just say anything after the NID, network interface device, that's on the resident. If there was a storm and a line goes down, we recommend the town covers that because it was out of the subscriber's control.
Okay.
So the infrastructure
bill it.
run by the town, so.
That's right.
Yeah.
You own that.
And so when, it's a good point. So when somebody knocks over a pole with their car, we then have to go after their insurance against your bill. And do you guys assist with that from a billing perspective? Will you just send us a bill and now the town is now gonna go chase around insurance companies, or is that something you deal with today?
We don't deal with that today, but we provide everything because you would get the police report. So we can't advocate saying it's $3,000, let's meet in the middle for 2,000. So we outsource, but we can assist with all the documentation. So this person was texting and driving. This was the repair, you took out 300 customers or 200, whatever it is. This is how much it costs for our crews to go on site. We would basically give you a package to go to their insurance.
Sure.
Okay. So
But
someone
that's a
would have
serious-
management out of town.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
serious
Right,
endeavor though.
Yep.
It's not an insignificant endeavor, just
That's right.
take that as. a
And it
note.
happens more often
Oh, yeah.
than you know. I mean,
Yeah.
especially with the Hilltown, driving and things like that. But they have gotten good to understand that that was their service that went down. That person's gonna pay for it through their
Hmm.
insurance. Now, if they miss some, obviously, there's gonna be some that get away and you never track that down. But you wanna be able to
And
track that. Or if a tractor trailer truck drives through and wipes out a line and takes it with them, which again, that
That
happens more
happens,
often than you
yeah.
wanna know. Again, you want that information because you're going after that truck.
And we would
company.
carry our own insurance. anyway.
And you'll have that, that's right.
Okay, I just wanna ask one more time, just to clarify. So a customer, they have your Wi-Fi router in the house. It's not working. Like, what happened, like, the customer, it just gets charged by you guys
No.
to come fix it? Like, that's, I just wanna make sure I understand that also, where that chargeback comes to.
anything with the router, if there's issues, we replace it, and then we go out there, we troubleshoot, and we say, oh, wow, no, it is broken, no cost to either one.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that the router would be owned by you guys.
That's right.
Yeah.
All the routers.
That's right. And that's one of the best reasons why we keep that with us. One, we can triage, but two, if that's the issue, we replace and move. If we get out there and they said it was our router and we've proven that it wasn't and we're still on site, we'll let them know anything on the inside, it's gonna cost X if you want us to do it, or you guys can do it yourselves. So it's,
And that, do you have to have that agreed upon by the town, like, or do you have like? You have a rate that you're charging everybody already?
if we get into that agreement, that'll all be spelled out in
Okay.
hopefully a 10-year contract that says,
Perfect.
here's what the rates are and here's what the replacement rates are and things like that, but that's
I
in a
just like to
contract.
know like all the details because people ask the most the
Sure.
weirdest questions and especially this, I feel very passionate about. So I wanna make sure I have like all the answers,
Yep.
you know, this, for me as a resident, like that would be a concern, like going to the
Yeah.
service, like how does that work?
In that agreement will be a truck roll and 2 guys and how much that's gonna cost. That's all agreed upon
Perfect.
in the
And
long-term
if someone
agreement.
cancels service, they've got the router, they're responsible for bringing it back to you or mailing it in. I'm thinking about anyone that has cable service, you're responsible for equipment, and things like that. Otherwise they get billed.
so if they're moving out, we just recommend that they keep the router there,
Okay.
cause you're
That's
moving
what-
in and it's
yeah.
more seamless. To
Sure.
just change the Wi-Fi password, we send an email, welcome to Whip City Fiber, but they would call, it would be a remote disconnect. But if they're just, I'm so unhappy, we would say, through the onboarding question, through the website, drop it off at your town hall, mail it back to us, but there wouldn't be a fee. We just recommend keeping it in the home because it's more seamless for the next.
Like I was just wondering, is it the customer who, are they ultimately responsible or does the town bear that cost? Or say the cost, I've, heard of people like packing the stuff up and then they're, living in Wisconsin and, they still have their.
It happens.
So-
Yeah.
It happens.
It wouldn't be on you. It would be on the resident moving, and then we do go through that termination process, so multiple attempts. You have the equipment, and then we we shut it down, so it's obsolete, so even if they did
Mhm.
try to use it in Wisconsin, they
Yeah.
can't,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
it's locked down.
Yeah.
But those are good questions. And going back to the car accidents, the best suggestion that we have is working hand in hand with the police department, so then they understand that it is the town's asset. We need as much information on this car accident, on the insurance, from the driver for the motor vehicle accident. We just, some towns, they don't communicate well. Southwick does, but some towns, just getting that information from the police department to package to the insurance.
Right.
Any other questions?
A couple years ago, when you guys were in, you gave us this sheet, had $28, $28 was your charge, to service that customer. Has that changed with all the inflation and everything else going on?
Well, that, I don't know what that agreement was based on in terms of years. So that would be something to go through with the contract in regards to that. I don't want to speak for the GM, but I'm guessing that's probably the starting point, when it comes to that. But that is what that was that's our charge to the town, and then you set your rate on what it is to the resident. And that delta is your money.
Can you comment on what you're charging other towns? Or is that not,
Oh.
is that not like a?
Oh, and I think it's probably
It's the same,
public record.
It's
right?
public. It's public record. So West Springfield right now is paying $28.
Perfect, thank you.
But we're closer and we get a better deal. Any other questions?
West Springfield just closed.
I just have one last question. He has a form that you guys gave us that has like projected figures. And I noticed that you're required to get a permit per pole. There's like a fee per pole.
Yes,
Is there like legislation or anything like trying to get that changed? Cause that is a big expenditure like for the town.
We don't own the pole.
We don't own the pole.
I know, but why as a town are you paying per pole? Like, do you think you pay the whole, if I'm applying for the whole town, you know?
So I can, through experience, so basically each poll has a history. Working directly with Governor Baker, Lieutenant Governor Polito, Bill Lennon with the state. There's only so much. That is a cost, and that is the biggest unknown, but each poll you need a attachment agreement, license agreement that we facilitate start to finish to actually attach your fiber. And it is a long and painful process, but there is no wiggle room even from Governor.
No, I just
Baker.
curious if that was something
Really?
that, well, we'll have to talk to Nick.
tried and
Yeah.
failed, I can tell you.
And the incumbents have, I mean, you read about all
It's a very
the
big fee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
discussions at the legislative level that have happened with Eversource and Verizon about even just property taxes on assets that are located in the
Mhm.
right of way that have gone to Supreme Court level type decision
Oh, I
making
know.
process, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any additional questions? I have a couple, but I wanted to make sure we got everybody here, and anyone on Zoom? I didn't see any hands up, I was just making sure.
I just had one more done.
Please.
So we have some pricing that was furnished to us 2 years ago, and I'm not gonna ask a specific, cost, but would you be able to update us with anything that's changed?
Yes,
Something similar?
absolutely.
And, one of the things I saw, and maybe you can answer, but if you can't, I understand. The cost per pole for Eversource for the application is substantially higher than Verizon. Is that, I'm
That's,
hoping it's a typo, but maybe.
that's still the case.
it's still that.
Yeah, so the only thing that we need to
I can
update,
Show you this if that helps you. I didn't.
oh, yeah, so
ask you
that,
Something out of the blue, but the Eversource is much higher per pole than Verizon, just for the application.
Didn't I
That-
hear from the last meeting, forgive me, Verizon owns more of the poles in town than Eversource. don't
Correct.
they? That's a good thing.
By a bond. And we gotta move along, because we got other folks waiting as well. I just have, two quick questions.
we'll
Yeah.
update it.
I apologize. So is your proposal or your concept is it gonna be your design that you build, we pay for as part of this, as part of an overall project? Well, and you guys went into the billing and all of that, but as far as the network itself, would you, under a project management agreement or under a contractual agreement, would you design that network that you're going to operate?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
and then if you want, it's your network, so we would work hand in hand with the town of Southwick. How do you want it? Is it 1x16 based on the fiber? How do you want your fiber design? We would work with you with the engineering firm. But basically, yes, start to finish, we would partner with them. They would do a field walkout, so making sure every premise, if there's any lots that might have future growth, to make sure that there's spare fiber allocated, multi-dwelling units, if there's separate electric meters. But that would be a kickoff meeting. We would notify the residents. We're having surveyors going out there. If you have, I know Southwick's kind of farm, if you have those addresses that are off the beaten path, we'll see what the footage is. If it's underground, what's the cost? So that resident might have to pay. But yeah, we would work start to finish.
Okay, so we're not gonna, you don't foresee us designing and implementing a network and then you guys coming and operating or providing the service over the top of that?
If that's what you want to do, we could certainly,
I'm kind of asking what's your preference in that regard?
we would honestly rather work start to finish with you, going through the design and engineering, build that trust, make sure that every premises, the fiber is passing. The town of Alford did do everything by themselves. We're their internet service network operator, and we have a 10-year agreement with them, but they chose to do everything on their own.
Gotcha.
But it's easier for us to go through the make-ready process, the whole application, design and engineering.
But is that design capability within your ability today under a contract? Or do you hire an outside firm to do the design or do we hire that firm that you manage for us or look at for us?
So
How does that work?
we hire Precision Valley Communications, so we pay Precision Valley Communications, and it's the exact same thing that Precision Valley Communications is charging us. So whatever that rate is on design and engineering, that's what they're charging us. And then we project manage to make sure we're holding them accountable, they're doing what we ask, we're doing the QA/QC, quality assurance, making sure it's to spec. And that's the exact same process that we followed with the 19 community partners.
Exactly. Okay. And then will you also assist with a community compact grant application to work out our municipal fiber network? Because we do have municipal buildings that are not on this campus. We have the ring here, like between police, fire, and this building. But we have the library, we have the cemetery, we have DPW that are at the north and almost southerly edges of the town. So that there is a community compact grant. Have you done those with other
Oh, yeah.
communities?
I talked about the resiliency project, up in the northern cluster and the southern cluster, so up Heath and some of those towns. And then the lower Washington, Blandford, Otis, they both qualified for the community compact grant and are using that money to build their resilient network. Hamden, got that grant, 250,000. They did their poll application part of their scenario off the community compact grant.
Awesome.
So we can't apply, but we give you the information, work hand in hand to make sure you have the data
Correct.
that you need.
Yeah,
Yep, absolutely.
All right.
And actually, I strongly suggest you I know you talked about that last meeting, about monies out there and things like that. I strongly suggest you do that because you do have some unbuilt muni locations that you can qualify for.
Exactly.
So that's a good thing.
Excellent. Well, thank you very, very much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate
you.
Your time tonight.
And contact us if you think of something that you didn't finish.
Shall do.
We'll pay attention. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
And I apologize. That went a little longer than.
No,
but
sorry,
the-
there's a
no,
lot of,
it's great,
it's
but
a
the
big
Q and A is
deal.
great, and we're
Thank
gonna
you.
give the same amount of attention to everyone who wants to come and talk to us, so let me stop this. And go back to,
Thank you all.
Doug,
thank you, sir.
would their handouts be digitized?
I already have it electronically, so I'll email it after the meeting tonight. How's that?
Sounds good.
Anybody wants it on paper? And I believe we have somebody, and I apologize for the delay, but I do believe we have someone with us tonight from South Hadley.
Yes. Hello, Sean Fitzgerald. How are you?
I'm well. Apologies for the length of our meeting here.
That's all right. It's Katrine's fault. She talks a lot. I used to work with Katrine. No, but in all seriousness, you want me to just start? I'm not going to do a presentation. I'm going to make mine much briefer. introduce myself, Sean Fitzgerald from South Hadley Electric. I'm a general manager for South Hadley Electric and Fiber Spring, which is our fiber business. Prior to South Hadley, I worked for Westville Gas and Electric for 6 years. I hired Katrine. I developed the business plan for the Whip City Fiber brand that they are now extremely successful with. I'm very proud of it. Very proud to see Katrine in her role, and they're a great group. We now serve Shutesbury, Leverett, in South Hadley. We're approaching 4,000 customers. We are, what's unique about us is we're partnered with Hoyoke Gas and Electric. So I had to make the same choices and decisions that you're making today when I decided to build a fiber network in South Hadley. And what I chose is to hire Hoyoke Gas and Electric to be my network operator. Together with Hoyoke Gas and Electric providing the network operator role and us doing everything else, we are a fully turnkey solution ISP. HG&E, one of the reasons I chose them is because they had municipal light plant employees, not subcontractors. They had 20 years plus of building that team in that transport layer, 100 gig circuits, 15 million in investments. And what we're seeing today, and I'll caution you, is that network operations is becoming so critically important because the streaming bandwidth issues that are affecting the entire consumer network they're real, they're happening right now. We have very much the same model that Whip City Fiber has. Like I said, I built that business side of the house. I created that brand. I was there with Katrine when we first launched the product and developed her team. South Hadley has built the gold standard in South Hadley to serve almost identical the way that Westfield's serving. Biggest difference again is HG&E. We use Certex. We use a lot of the same vendors. We have our own in-house project management and construction team, and we partnered up with Hoyoke. As far as why we're here, I just want to thank Jessica. I got invited kind of not too long ago, but we know you're geographically next door to Westfield, but we can provide all the same services, and we have crews, trucks, very similar makeup than what you see at Whip City Fiber. The town of Shutesbury and Leverett, when they have storms, they have outages, it's our crews that are rolling out. It's our techs that are solving those problems. We do all the billing, all the customer service, all the marketing. Our sales take rates are very comparable to Westfield. They are approaching 50%. We launched in 2018, and we are also looking to expand. We are also talking to other towns. The only difference is we are being selective and careful about our growth. We don't want to grow too fast that we can't handle or take on what we can do. Your town, Southwick, is very similar to South Hadley, almost identical in miles, almost identical in customers, very similar in just the composition of your town. And so we understand the challenges with construction and what you're going through. Other than that, I'm going to leave it open for questions. If you have any questions, I don't need to regurgitate all the things that was just said, but we do those things. I will tell you this, that one thing I want to caution you about is routers. When you hire an ISP, you want to be ISP agnostic. You want to make sure that if they own those routers, that you're okay with that, because once they own those routers, you have a hard time changing ISPs down the road. So if service isn't great, if you're having issues, you want to have some control and some decision over those routers contractually.
Why is that?
Well, I'll give you an example. You sign a 5-year agreement, you have an issue, you want to look at another ISP to come in and serve you, and you go to make a change and you find out it's $2 million to get out of that to go to purchase those routers or to replace those routers. So what I mean by ISP agnostic is you wanna, this was the original thought process behind all the hill towns with Otis and all the Wired West towns and everybody else that came on board with Whip City Fiber, is that you want to set everybody up so that they have choice and they have ownership, so that if something goes south for you and you want to make a decision, that you have flexibility and you have ownership and you have control over those decisions.
So meaning if we were to, and please anyone chime in, but is it your premise that if the ISP or the operator of the network supplies the router and then you decide to change it, you would then need to obviously, either the new provider would have to provide routers or the customer would then have to procure their own router?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's your choice. You have to determine, if you say you own the router, so we pay for the router and then we own the router, then if you say, well, I want to leave you and I want to look at another competitor, if we own the router, then you got to go and replace all those routers or push it on the customer, and the customer has to pay for the router. So it's just something I heard that I want to caution you about, that routers are important to determine who owns them when you're signing that contract. And again, when I say ISP agnostic, is that if in 5 years time or 10 years time, you want to talk to another potential provider, you want to have the ownership squarely in your possession so that you can manage that contract properly and you can leverage those terms. If you can.
If I could, in either instance, somebody's gonna pay for that router at some point. And, you know, if the ISP owns it, obviously, you know, they're the ones eating the cost up front. And either the customer or us is gonna be responsible at some point if it's used to change to a new ISP. So pay now or pay later, I mean, isn't that really what we're looking at? Do we wanna put the money up front or do we wanna take that chance down the line?
And to that point, is there, just from a technology standpoint, is there's two devices you're talking about here?
Yeah,
So is there a device that comes off the fiber and then you've got an Ethernet port on that, right? And then a router that plugs into that and provides the more service to home versus the customer provides their own router, whether it's an Orbi or some other mesh system or Ubiquity or whatever, that they could plug that into the device coming off the fiber as well, correct? I just want to make sure, and for anyone else listening that is following along, that that's the right description of how this works.
Yeah, I know Whip City said they would provide the modem.
They
So,
said
if-
router, that's why I wanted,
Yeah,
and I should have asked them and
I
I
think
didn't.
they meant modem.
I
Yeah.
thought they
I
meant
think
router.
they were talking
The
about.
ONT is
you
the
could
town
rent
will
out.
own.
That's the word.
The ONT, the town will own,
Yeah.
that ties back to the hut, but anything beyond the ONT is either the customer's choice to put in their own router or the ISP could offer that as a service, so.
Yeah, and there's
Just one-
managed, so they're able to like log into it and like help the customer.
Right.
But what,
Support it.
that's what Comcast does today, and Sean, I don't mean to
It's vendor
monopolize
specific,
here.
So if you lose them, then they're gonna, what
Right.
he's saying is you're not gonna be able to use that service.
That device.
So the ONT, and I'll have to go back and we'll ask Sean this question. So who owns the ONT?
So in our town, we do managed service, so we have a lot of routers that we own. And the only point I'm making is that as you're making decisions of who's gonna be your ISP, is that they can pay for it, they can own it, and you can be fine with it. But I would try and make sure that you have some language that gives you the agnostic ability that if you want to separate from them, that you have a buyout clause, or you have an ability to, you know, that those routers, you don't have to pay for them twice. Down the
Fair
road.
enough.
Yeah.
So back that up for 1 second, then who owns the ONT then? Is that the town of Southwick or is it the provider? Because in earlier conversations, and this predates this version of the committee, I'm pretty sure Whip City had told us that they own the ONT and that if they upgrade the service from 1 gig to 2 gig or 4 gig later, or there's some other technology refresh that the fiber is good for a long time, but they may have to replace equipment at either end. And that they would replace it, or they would own it. So, and I'll get clarity on that. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I thought that that was the content of the conversation. So how does that work with Fiber Spring?
I think the point I'm making is you can dictate to us how you want to manage that. Do you want us to own it? Do you want us to pay for it? Do you want to own it? The point I'm saying for you is I think it's an important decision to determine, do you want to pay for it? Do you want to own it? Do you want us to pay for it? Do you want us to own it? And I think it's fine either way. I do think that it gives you flexibility down the road if you own it and you pay for it, but that's it's just you know, it's not a major sticking point. It's just a point I wanted to make. It's something I heard in the presentation. And I think they said it's your choice, but I know many times customers will choose to have you pay for it. Us, meaning us, pay for it.
What are your contracts like requirements? Are you looking for a 10-year agreement? Or are you just looking for like 5 years?
So yeah, we would love a 10-year contract. We have a 5-year now, we have a 3-year. You know, we're open to whatever term.
Okay.
Would be interested in, yeah.
Flip City just seemed like they were focusing on that 10-year agreement. It was just a very long time.
Yeah, they now are dealing with competition that didn't exist before. So, you know, Shell and HG&E, you know, being a competitor, you know, now if you lock up a town for 10 years, you know, that's stability, and I understand that. So I'm open, I'm flexible, you know, we're smaller, but we're growing fast. The difference between us is, you know, having HG&E be our network operator is a huge advantage. And HG&E, if you remember, they're the ones who really designed, developed, project managed the majority of these projects before Whip City Fiber came along. So they have quite a bit of experience. And you know, again, that was a hard decision for me as I was a former employee and I had to choose them over my former employee. And so, yeah, so that's where we're at with it. We're growing fast. We're looking for any term of contract that the customer would like, as long as we agree to terms. We have very much similar proposals. I use Precision Valley. I use Certex. I use pretty much the identical subcontractor group that they use to manage your service. I also have internal employees. I have, you know, Westville Gas and Electric's engineer who designed most of these towns working for Shell. You know, so we're very similar in nature. They're just bigger and farther along.
Okay. So do you have a differentiator that you say makes Fiber Spring the better partner?
You know, I do.
I mean, now is your chance to put your sales hat on, bud.
No, I do, and I'll tell you that one big thing is me in that I've seen it before. I've seen everything on the radar. When I was at Westville Gas and Electric, nobody there wanted me to build a separate brand and a separate network. I had to fight for it. And that turned out to be the right decision. The team that I built there is outstanding, mostly Katrine's team. The team that I built in South Hadley is outstanding, and I've got a lot of talent working for me. I think that the difference between us is that many of our staff and our team are actual full-time employees. When you look at the makeup, the composition of their network group, and you heard them, you know, they're trying to hire, but it takes 10 years to develop network operations experience. Someone like Westville Gas or Hoyle Gas and Electric, they have, you know, 25, 30 years of regional experience that can't be built in 5 years. It takes, you know, quite some time. And how that manifests is if you're not ahead of bandwidth growth and bandwidth management, you're gonna have problems and you're gonna have bottlenecks and capacity issues. And I would implore you to talk to as many of those customers as you can that are being served.
Who services Holyoke? Pardon me, who services, Mount Holyoke College?
Mount Holyoke College?
Yes.
So Mount Holyoke College is their own entity. They're served, I believe, right now by Comcast. We've bid on their, we've proposed to serve them. And so they have a decision to make in the future, whether they want to get off Comcast and come on board with us. We are vastly growing in that area. We'll see if they make that jump. I know they've been working with them for many, many years, so it's probably a difficult decision for them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Questions from the room?
I guess I'm
Sean, are
wondering
there- Oh, I'm sorry.
if they can put together any kind of proposal, like in terms of costs, anything like that, so we can have that to look at. How comparable would it be to Whip City? Is it in the same ballpark, I guess?
Sure. We could provide pretty much an identical proposal for engineering, design, project management. In fact, we just did that a few times, and we can provide you with a proposal very similar.
Appreciate that. Is anyone else in the room? Mr.
A question for you is that if someone takes out a swimming pool, a car accident, how long does it take to get a truck out?
Much like you heard Brian talk about, it depends on distance, agreement and the contract. Usually Southwick, from where we're located, it's usually 2 hours. We can be there within 2 hours. We like to give a 4-hour window. We've served Shutesbury very well in storms, Leverett very well. So we've had some major storms this past winter, more than we expected. And we had our crews out there servicing their issues and restoring their fiber. But we do have to at times wait for the utility. In that case, in those towns, it's Eversource. So once they stand up the electricity, then we can get in and put our communications back up.
Thank you.
Jessica,
Yeah, I was just curious if there are any documented reports for like your service outages, frequency and length of time.
So we have our own internal statistics on, you know, how many calls we take, what those calls are they password issues? Are they, you know, broken service, whatever they are. We do have all those statistics. We do.
Is it shareable?
I will get back to you on that.
Okay.
Those are internal customer service calls. I could probably give you something general. I could probably provide you something general. You know, here's, yeah, we had, you know, 1,000 calls. Here's the top priority of calls. So we could share that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah.
anyone else on Zoom? Sean, do you have any questions for us?
My only question is, you know, you seem pretty far along in the process. Congratulations to you. Westfield Gas and Electric, you know, they're a next door neighbor. They seem like a logical partner for you. Where are you in the process? What has your decision process been like? How close are you to making a decision?
That's an excellent question. So we're in a second official meeting of an implementation committee. So previous, we were kind of an advisory committee to the select board, which we still are, but we were charged with coming back to the select board to make a recommendation to proceed to the two town meeting votes and getting authorization to actually implement Muni Fiber. We did that. The town, voted twice to go ahead and form the MLP. And then the select board voted to allocate some, ARPA seed money towards kicking off the project. And then at the last town meeting in May, we allocated, we voted to authorize up to $3 million in bonding. So 3 million plus 900,000 in initial funding. We had talked obviously we had talked to Whip City Fiber along this way. We had also talked to another provider or two along the way. But coming out of that, now that we reconstituted the committee with marching orders from the select board to say, okay, now go do it, and come back to the select board with who should do this, how do we do this? What are other cities and towns doing? And so hence some of the probative questions with them are like, hey, do we have to go hire an engineer and build a network and then you just come in and operate it? Or do you do that as part of an overall contract? Or, how do each provider want to work? So, and then frankly, we're doing this to get the best service at the best cost for the businesses and residents in the town of Southwick. And I was very public about this. We have some agreements with Westfield today, intermunicipal agreements. We just executed Monday night, the select board executed a sewer IMA with them so that we can continue to utilize the capacity at the sewer plant that we bought. We have an intermunicipal agreement with Westfield for dispatch. But that doesn't make it a homer. I mean, we were not, and I'll be very honest, we weren't super pleased with the way the sewer process went. And we were clear to the mayor and we were clear to the folks from Westfield Gas and Electric that this is going to be an open process, right? Yes, you've been very consultative and very helpful, but that doesn't make it a shoo-in. So we wanted to open up the floor tonight and maybe even next meeting as well to have folks that want to come in and make a pitch to the town of Southwick and say, we want to be your guy, right? Or gal, and we want to be your provider of this service. We want to, operate this network. We're going to help you help you design and construct this network. And then we're going to be the best RN operator so that your residents and businesses, have, kick-ass internet. And that's where I think I think that's where we left it in our last meeting, from our formative meeting and then into this meeting is where we're at. So obviously no decision's been made. And it's just going to be a very open process from here for us to discuss as an advisory committee to go back to the select board and say, this is our recommendation, right?
Great. Excellent.
Can I ask one more question? Do you have any experience working with MBI?
Yeah, so South Hadley Electric originally built MBI fiber through the town of South Hadley. That's how we got into fiber. We were working with them in the 5 college net, and we ran major strand count through South Hadley to connect to 1 federal. So that was kind of the beginning of our work, working with 5 college net, MBI connections in South Hadley and at the borders of South Hadley and Chicopee. We are just recently became a DTE, Department of Telecommunications certified provider. We have a lot of experience putting fiber up. We can construct. We have a lot of great construction experience in-house. A lot of our line personnel have done fiber for 5 college net. We have a indefeasible right of use on those fibers for 5 college net, which is all part of that MBI big project that came in, I don't know, a decade or so past.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I think maybe we want to get some contacts as we're going through in the communities that these folks are serving that we can speak with, get a feel for their overall experience. But Sean had actually suggested a bit ago, talking to some of Westfield's. I think it'd be a great idea.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, divvy it up, let some of us talk with, some of the
I have
folks.
a lot of contacts in South Hadley. I did work there for almost 5 years. Experience with their fiber internet as well. That's what they fed to the fire department there. So I would be happy to hand out names in all different directions from there.
Yeah, and I could provide you with Shutesbury, the municipal light plant manager, also the town of Leverett, the municipal light plant manager there. They can give you feedback for their conversion. We converted them, now we serve them. I think it would be wise choice just to speak to as many, customers as you can to get a perspective on what's good, what's not so good, and still may not change your decision, but it's good to get perspective from other towns.
I think we have to make, to be honest, I think we have to make a decision before we would change it, but, when you said converted, what do you mean by converted versus?
Sure. So the town of Shutesbury was served by another ISP. They were served by, what's now called, I believe, GoNet Speed. Crocker was also another one that was serving, the town of Leverett. And so we had to take over all of their ISP network operations and convert it to our network operations. HG&E was absolutely critical in that role. So HG&E facilitated all of that backhaul, that IFP network transport conversion. And then we converted all the billing, the customer service, the text. So we're really the ISP on record, and they're the network operator who does all of the network wholesale configuration in the background. So it's a few month process. Remember, they were already constructed. So this is where I get into the conversation about being agnostic. So that in 5 years' time, they were not happy with the service they were being provided. And because they owned everything, it was easy. They were able to make that conversion and change ISP providers. And that's what you want to be when you're signing these contracts. You want to make sure that you have that ability in the future, if you need be, to pursue other providers. You may be happy, let's say we were your provider and you're happy, that's great. But if you're not, you want the opportunity to be agnostic, to look at other providers.
Exactly. Got it. Further questions?
No.
We're in good shape. So can you send us some of those references from those other towns?
Certainly.
You can send those to myself. And I'll distribute them to we'll assign some folks to follow up with them direct. And, we're gonna meet in a couple of weeks and kind of reconvene on this.
No problem. I'll send them to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you, Sean.
Yep.
Thank you. Discussion? On what we saw tonight, you want to take it all in?
Definitely.
And my initial reaction is that, South Hadley guy seems kind of like Whip City seems like the natural fit. When it's time to renegotiate, come talk to me.
So I found out when I called him the other day, I did not realize that he was literally the originator. And I was like, oh, dang, that's going to be weird. But he's a brilliant man, like conversationally. And he asked if he should have a presentation for tonight. I didn't think we were doing that. So I was like, no, I think it'll be more of just a question and answer. So he was probably going to send me a really mean email that Westfield showed up with a PowerPoint and whatnot. But I feel that we should be cautioned of Whip City possibly taking on too much too fast. That's a lot. I didn't realize when I gave that list the other day, I didn't realize how many they had taken on. And I think there's something to be said about, how much is too much too fast. And I think we just got to go slow and do the homework.
Absolutely.
Well, that's it. That's why I wanna talk to some of theirs as well, for the same reason, some of the early ones and some of the most recent ones. That's their experience been.
And also in my experience, in a lot of different industries, there's like the same 10 guys and you just move from company to company to company. Like, so it doesn't shock me that he worked with Whip City or worked somewhere else. And, you know, in my business, there's 20 people that I know that they've worked at every single company in the little segment of business that we're in, right? They just, it's like a club or alumni. So it's not surprising. And, I wouldn't take it in any regard, good, bad, or indifferent. And certainly we can reach out to, reach out to Sean again and say, look, if you wanted to come back again and make a more detailed prezzo, you're more than welcome to. I understand where he's coming from a point of view and how he's trying to position the service he's offering. And like I said, I wanted to be clear to Sean and to anyone else, because we've talked about this 100 times, but I'll say it one more time, is this was not a done deal. Yes, Whip City's helped us on a couple things, but we want to make the right decision here. So if there's a different guy or a different company that's out there that's a better fit for us, I'm in, right? And we
Ultimately,
should all be
we'd
in.
ask for numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, that's what they're gonna come
The other
back
thing to think about too, is they're literally using the same designer of the network.
with.
Yes.
So like, I mean, honestly, if we as the town went to that designer, we could get what we want and then you could shop out the network.
Right, exactly.
So,
And we're lucky that we have some folks on here that know this stuff, you know, better than most, right, from West. But to me, you're right. This is like, if you're buying the same service from, you know, it's almost like buying something that has a different badge on it from someone else, other than the ISP side of it, which we really didn't probe Westfield hard about that, as far as who's up, you know, upstream to them and how they're doing it. They're trying, you know, that kind of thing. So that's, you know, worth further conversation to kind of equalize everything out. Is someday we're gonna come up with some kind of table, I imagine, to kind of equalize and answer all the questions.
yeah.
And fill in the gaps, right?
And, you know, in just speaking generally, regardless of what, proposals we're looking at, I think we'd be best off looking at it in chunks and individual pieces. Because it just flows that way. So you've got the make ready and then the design, the network operator and ISP, those really should be separate instances, if not separate contracts. So whether you go for one turnkey solution or you wanna piece it up, you know, there's some good options and things to think about there. Because that's kind of how it has to come together anyway. We've got to get the design done first. We don't need to sign a contract to operate it until we're ready. We want to do what's best for the town and then make sure that we can, you know, get as much information as we do. So just some things that will kind of give us guidelines about how to proceed to in which order.
The reason that I asked about the response time if somebody takes out a phone call. I used to go to church up in Holyoke, which is just across the river from South Hadley. And it was a half hour. Just two. And so if I'm someone, I mean, so according to this response, if someone takes out a poll, that response is gonna be within 2 to 4 hours. I wonder if it would take Westfield 2 to 4 hours to do whatever, so. I mean.
It may, part of their problem is
You know.
dependent too on the electric company
Right.
or Verizon, whoever owns the pole, coming out, repairing and making ready so that they can eventually come out. They're usually, like what they were saying earlier, they generally last in line.
Yeah,
So
they are.
Comcast isn't coming up until after the electric company has gotten things going, or Verizon's fixed the pole. Comcast is the last one in to fix. So that estimate's kind of a hard one, because if it's just a cut line, pole's fine, that's different, that's just on them.
But it's still 2 hours, or 2 to 4 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm not surprised, but I think that's something to consider in this whole discussion is with South Hadley's distance to Southwick, if that's their base of operation where they'd roll a truck. I'm assuming that, you know, here we're with Whip City, we are right next to them, you know, and I know that if there was an adverse weather event, like that's, and you have poles down or you have situations, that's gonna be a tougher road to hoe for South Hadley to get here in bad weather or whatever, when you have ice and snow and so on. But, and I also would question either guy or any potential supplier, what that SLA is. Cause they're gonna be a little selfish
And that
too,
would be in
right?
the
If
contract.
you've got issues in Westfield, they're gonna take care of Westfield before they come to Southwick, or they're gonna take care of South Hadley before they're gonna come to
Right, these
Southwick.
guys are servicing,
Right, and
all
I'm
of it.
assuming that, but somewhere out in these outer regions where they're working now, they must have either subcontractors or,
Yeah.
did say,
Or
they
stuff
did
You
say
wanna have
some
them on
subcontract.
retainer.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's something you'd wanna see spelled out in the
Right.
agreement
Right.
with the network operator.
No doubt.
Whoever it is, and if you don't meet those, you know, what are the penalties? You know, that's all part of what you wanna see in a contract.
We didn't ask Sean about, like, Whip City said they had an outage map for what they're working on, and that's gonna be, the fiber is gonna actually be in place by 2024 for sure. So that would be actually a convenience.
Yeah.
Just having outage maps so they can see where there are outages proactively.
I think it's a great feature from, huh?
Those are the little details.
Those are little, yeah.
I think,
That is-
I think it's a
There's
key
the
customer
CRM, stuff
service.
like that.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you guys know technically how it works better than I, but I mean, it's from a customer service standpoint, like the Eversource outage map is, oh, it's even better than Westfield's, right? Like you drill down to a neighborhood and you got a pretty good idea whether it's you or not you,
Right.
right? And the same thing with, I think Comcast is getting better with that, but they didn't used to have anything.
No, their app does it. It's like-
But does it now?
Yeah, the app
Because-
is pretty, it sends you like a message.
Right. But,
And a lot of that also comes from, we didn't talk a whole lot, but the equipment manufacturer.
oh yeah,
So we're gonna build a fiber network, Southwick's gonna own it. We've gotta choose what type of equipment we want to run over that. Equipment that, you know, has a 5 to 10 year lifespan generally. So there's three big names out there. Calix, Nokia, and Adtran. So those are the three big players. They're gonna provide the equipment in the hut, they're gonna provide the ONT, they provide software to the operators so that they can have visibility right down to the household. So that's where you're gonna see a lot of that functionality in there. So that's another decision that we'll be talking about as we move forward with it.
What does ONT mean?
Optical network termination.
It's your cable modem. It's a cable.
It's analogous to that.
Interface.
So that's gonna be the same manufacturer as what's in our equipment hut. So they're going hand in hand.
He was referring to.
Yeah, that's why there's some confusion on customers owning, like, I'm a Comcast customer now and I rent their cable modem right now because I haven't bothered changing it yet, but there really isn't an option with fiber broadband network. You know, the town or owner of that network's gonna own that ONT/cable modem, that type of device. What's after that, the router for the Wi-Fi at home, that's, you know, that's all debatable and something we'll want to discuss to see what's best for the residents.
I think honestly, like, it's really like the contract thing, 10 years seems like a long time for us. That's one of the things, like, that's like what their standard is.
It's all
Something to think
negotiable.
about.
Well, I think that's what they're going for, how's that?
and we also have to look into that too, I think for, I don't think that, you have to go to town meeting to have something longer than 3.
Oh, really?
I don't think
Yeah.
the select board can execute any agreement that's longer than 3. I could be wrong, right, but I'll talk to the town attorney. But all of our employment agreements, most of our contractual stuff are 3 years unless we go to town meeting, like we just signed the wastewater agreement. That went to town meeting and gave the select board the authorization to enter into a longer term deal. So if the town meeting gives the select board that authorization, we could do it. And that doesn't mean you couldn't go to town meeting and ask for 10 and sign for 5, but you have that flexibility. If they tell you 5's all, you can't do 10, right? But that's what they're,
When's the next town meeting?
that's an excellent question.
Is it like, is it the spring?
Discussion Monday night at the select board is they're targeting a December 5th special,
A special meeting, town meeting?
special time.
Okay,
And then the next, and more than likely, any meeting after that would be in May.
okay. That's just a good thing to think about.
Yeah.
We're trying to-
But that special's coming right up, right? So Anyway, sir,
If I could, direct your attention to the stuff I sent you. And one of the tables is called the 10 towns of broadband summary information. And when we were talking to South Hadley Electric, you know, and we're waiting for them to send us something. Those towns that already have relationships, you can go to their website, because, I mean, what I've done on this 10 town thing is it working off a map of NBI. I picked these 10 towns, some of which were Whip City, some were Comcast. And, because they were the top two in this region for NBI. And the Comcast people, I mean, are just voids of information on the town website. I mean, just void. So I have no idea what's going on in any of those towns. And some of them, like Chesterfield and Cummington and Goshen, is that they're really extremely detailed, right down to how much they're gonna charge you, blah, 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 for whatever. And you can select packages. And I think it's that kind of granular information we're looking for also. And the towns there that South Hadley's, we should be able to go to their website and find out what they're doing, because they've got a municipal latent power also. And so we should be able to go to their website and see what they're doing. And not wait on this guy.
Yeah, I think you'll find any of the towns that built their own broadband network will have that information, because the town started and built that. You're not really gonna find it as much for any of the towns served by a cable company. Only because the town grants a franchise agreement for video. But other than that, the services are governed to an extent by the state, but other than that, it's really just those cable companies are free to set the rates.
So figure out which of the towns here there was hints at getting rid of Comcast, going someplace else other than Comcast. Because, and I think 2 or 3 of them mentioned that it's important that you've got local control over what's going on, as opposed to this huge corporate thing. And so our town, just, going to the town websites, and some towns are just nightmares to figure out what's going on in that town, which is why I mean, as I indicated on here, voids of information.
I notice a lot of the voids are Comcast.
Yep.
yeah, the last mile piece with that, I mean, we're not really subject to some of the last mile stuff because we are served. But when, Governor Baker and his current administration, but mostly the previous administration was very focused on that last mile stuff. And they brought MBI there had been Wired West and MBI and a few others that had poked and prodded at last mile stuff out, especially the western part of the state. No one ever made it happen until basically, this is my opinion. I think that the former governor brought everybody to the table and money, and really that's what it comes down to. Wired West had a good plan and no money, and a lot of infighting, but Governor Baker and that team really brought that to the forefront and whether it was Comcast or Whip City or anyone else that actually did the work, they delivered a product. Now, whether everyone's completely happy with that end product, we are fortunate that for what it's worth, we have decent internet service today. It's expensive, but it's fairly reliable and it works. We're looking at providing a higher speed, hopefully as reliable or more reliable service, with a little more local control over it. So I think that's gonna be impactful to the overall decision-making process here. And whether you know, some of these guys out west, they were not wired on. Even Tallinn, which is in our school district, was one of those communities, right? They did not have broadband, period, in the town. They didn't even have, I don't even think they had, what's that called? DSL, I guess ISDN. and I-
Fields.
Yeah, right, and the kids were literally huddled around the library at night to get their homework and send their homework in, right? We're lucky we didn't have that particular situation, so. Certainly these are very worthwhile contacts, to talk to them and see what their process was, especially the ones that are Whip City ones. And it looks like it's darn near half, isn't it? So, and have a conversation with them, see how they did, and then reach out to the references that we're gonna get from Sean. And I should say Mr. Fitzgerald, and go from there. And we come back to this meeting and I think we should start to develop kind of a grid. To say, hey, this is some of the stuff we talked about. These are things we need to fill in blanks on providers that have come to us and that we didn't get the right answers. Like, we didn't really get to, someone just asked the question. We did talk about SLAs, and there were some things we didn't talk about. We should make sure we fill all that in and get those answers to that questions. And then, we can be a little more earnest with our discussion around what we're gonna recommend back to our appointing authority as to what we think we should do around design build, around contracting, around even the hook, right? Ultimately, the select board's gonna make this decision, but I think they're gonna put a ton of weight behind what we come back with.
Well, we should get this guy, from South Hadley to come in and give us a more detailed presentation.
Absolutely, and I think we should, I can lean on, I believe she's still here. Ms. Bishop to go
I'm
after
here.
them. There she is. To reach out again to Mr. Fitzgerald and, certainly offer him the opportunity at our next meeting, which is in 2 weeks. If he wants to come back and make another presentation as far as, either in person or remote, and make a little more detailed presentation around some of the service that Fiber Spring is offering, and how that's gonna, and now he's had the opportunity. I think going second's better, right? He got to sit through Whip City's whole thing, right? And have his day with it. So that's where we're at, and here we are.
Yeah,
at
I'll
the
reach back out to him.
2 hours. I think we're at about the end of our time for tonight. Unless we have any other further commentary.
Yeah, are we going to look into, Go NetSpeed?
Yeah, did anybody make contact with them at all?
I reached out to one person, I didn't have a number or anything, so I reached out to LinkedIn, so, I haven't heard anything back yet, but I'll inform the committee if I hear anything, just to find out what how they look at Southwick to do their overbuild, or if not that, or, what other services could they do?
It sounded like a couple of the towns that had Go NetSpeed that South Hadley took over, those towns were not happy.
That's kind of what I
Go
want to talk
NetSpeed.
to.
Oh, so we should talk to them and find out why or.
That was what I
thought too.
Yeah,
Right.
Absolutely.
No, you can get both experiences from
yeah.
one stop.
Sure.
The agenda for tonight's meeting. We never got.
Working on that. I couldn't get even the names right on the agenda tonight. We had a new person helping me. I'll get that squared away. We're gonna get better.
I'm trained to look now.
It was posted on time. I double, triple checked, and I checked it again today just to make sure it was still posted
Yeah, it was
adequately.
on the website.
But you should, and if you sign up for the emails, you'll get it automatically
Okay.
in your email. But I will make sure that we distribute the agenda. If I have to do it my damn self, we'll get you the agendas out ahead of the meeting, and I'll get the right names on the agenda as well. So, and if I mess that up, I apologize, but we'll get that fixed up. Any other yes, sir.
Also, I just like to add that I'm very thankful for the intelligence on this group here and you're all coordinating efforts. Thank you.
I can't manage to get the names right on an agenda. Right here, right? So, you know, and thanks, you know, everyone, and, you know, I see that Tom was able to join us. I know last time there was some problems clicking on the link. We've had that happen in the past once or twice, but, so glad Tom was able to join us tonight. And, is there any other public comments or any feedback to take back to, that you want us to take in tonight before we adjourn? Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Johnson and Peace. Sounds like a law firm. All in favor? Aye.
Bye.
All right. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.